Welcome to Leaders in the Arena. My name is Jenny Whitener, and I'm the Executive Director for the Brock Barnes Center for Leadership here at Covenant College. Leaders in the Arena is about real stories, hard-earned insights, and practical guidance from leaders doing the work of leadership in the arena. Today, we are bringing you live a conversation between two special guests that I'll be introducing momentarily. But first, just a little bit about Brock Barnes and the Center for Leadership here. We bring our leadership capability to life through four major capabilities: our Institute for Student Leadership, the Institute for Innovation and Impact, our Institute for Executive Education, and our Wisdom and Insight series, which brings me to today's program. As I mentioned, we have two very special guests with us today: Brent Beshore, founder and CEO of Permanent Equity, and David Caines, president of Kenco Group, and also a member of the Covenant College Board of Directors. So I'm excited that today David is going to be leading our conversation with Brent, and I just welcome the two of you. And I would just say, please tell us more about yourselves.
Great. Thank you, Jenny. I'm looking forward to the conversation today. As you said, COO at Kenco Group. I've been with them for 25 years. I'm a Covenant College alum, so it's special to always stay involved in different ways. And I'm really excited about the conversation with Brent today, as I've gotten a great opportunity to get to know him better over the last few years and even much closer over the last year. So Brent, how about a quick intro?
Yeah, well, thanks, David. I so appreciate it. Yeah, I'm most importantly Dr. Erica Beshore's husband. She's the real powerhouse in the family. I married way up, as anybody who knows us knows, and she sits on the Covenant College Advisory Board as a Covenant College grad, and introduced me to Covenant College quite a ways back, and we've just fallen in love with the school, and just so grateful for all the work that Covenant does. So I live in Columbia, Missouri. As I said, I'm married to Erica. We've got four kids, 11, 9, 7, and almost 2, 3 girls and a boy, and active in our church here called The Crossing here in Columbia. And then I founded a organization called Permanent Equity. The origins kind of go back to 2007-ish. We acquired the first business in early 2010. And had no idea what I was doing. I joke that I'm the Forrest Gump of private equity. I think that the more you get to know the story, the more you'd probably agree with it. But I just feel blessed that God's got a plan, and along for the ride. We've got 16 portfolio companies across the country. So we're a private equity firm, but we do it in a very different way. So if a traditional private equity is kind of we call the buy, lever, strip, and flip model, we're doing the exact opposite. We're using no debt in our transactions. We're holding indefinitely, and trying to encourage human flourishing in the portfolio. So, I think that's a little bit of background.
That's great. Well, I think you are you're very well known and well publicized, and so I hope we can maybe cover some new ground for folks as we're leading into your 3-day residency period about a month from now. So. If I can, I'll just rewind a little bit from 2007. Tell us about your journey, maybe from your schooling days all the way to 2007 and then to 2010 with the first acquisition. What was that journey like?
Yeah, well, it was quite a journey. So I grew up in Joplin, Missouri. My dad worked at the Canadian company for 39 years. My mom was a college professor. I remember my dad would take me into Books A Million at the time. This is foreign to all the young kids, but we'd go into this place that had a bunch of physical books and magazines, and he loved to read. We would go in there together, and I would start researching colleges. And I found this copy in Lexington, Virginia, that it was the most difficult academically in the country. It had produced the most presidents and CEOs of any school in the country, and it was the number 2 party school in the country. And that sounded like a pretty good combo to me at the time. I was not a believer. In fact, I had rejected faith. Grew up in the church, but had rejected faith at that point in my life, and was living for me. And so, went to Washington & Lee and got involved. I was in the fraternity, lived in the fraternity house for 3 years, president of the fraternity, led an organization on campus, and then ultimately came to get my law degree and my MBA at Mizzou. where I met Erica, and that was a big turning point in my life. I called her the sexy scientist for a year before I asked her out. She was like the one really hot girl in the hard sciences, and super intimidating. And anyway, we start dating, and I ended up actually dropping out of law and MBA, so I finished neither of the programs here at Mizzou, and started a business. That went okay. I would say for first-time entrepreneur, it could have been worse, but it didn't go great. And then I had a mutual acquaintance in St. Louis say, "Hey, you should meet this guy. He just got left out at the altar for the second time trying to sell his business." And I
Mm.
took that to mean to go buy the business because why else would you tell me that? He had no idea. It was actually shocked that I ended up acquiring that business. But anyway, long story short, ended up acquiring the business in St. Louis in February 1st, 2010, and got an SBA loan. Asked my newly married wife to sign a personal guarantee. She was like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Don't worry about it. It'll be fine." And the rest is somewhat history. It was a painful journey. There was a lot of ups and downs, but ended up introducing me to the world of acquisitions. I came at it from an operator perspective. I'd had no background in training. Didn't even know what private equity was. And so I just came at it from first principles of what would I want if I was the owner and seller of a business? What type of capital would I want? What would be the approach? And so we just designed the firm kind of from first principles around that, and has served us well. So
So you hinted at this a little bit. Talk a little bit about how your faith journey overlaps with your professional journey.
yeah, well, so it was rough. I got in my head at an early age that if I was going to belong and matter, I had to perform. And so if you look at my trajectory for high school, it was, high performance from the outside looking in. I was captain of the tennis team, editor-in-chief of the newspaper, made excellent grades, performed well in the SAT, get into Washington Lee. I'm not even sure if I could get in there today, but back then they had lower standards, so I was able to get in there. But rose up kind of through there, was part of the honor societies there, did real well in the MBA and JD program at Mizzou. And then when I transitioned in the business world, right, the metrics all changed, right? So I've always been kind of what is the game being played, and then how can I play it well? And look, the game in business is how do you make money? And when I looked at people who I thought had figured it out, it was people who had a lot of money, who were
Mm.
wealthy, successful. I was drawing, all of my identity and self-worth from my performance at that point, and it's terrible. I mean, I put on 65 pounds in five
Mm.
years. I didn't care anything. I didn't work out. I didn't care anything about what I ate. I was singularly focused on if I was going to win in business, if I was going to make money. Almost got divorced multiple times. Honestly, I give my wife,
Mm.
full credit. She's been a believer since she was a young child. She should not have married me. In fact, our pastor says that it's the first time he's ever seen missionary dating actually work out. It's not
Mm.
quite the cautionary tale that it maybe should be. But
Mm.
yeah, I mean, we had a really really rough marriage, and to her credit, she's the one who stuck
Mm.
with me in really I was lost, completely lost, and faith was a big um, friction point. She said to me, "Hey, look, you don't have to believe, but I want you to go to church with me." And so that was part of our marriage compromise, is I would go to church with her, and I hated every minute of it. I can
Mm.
remember just it was every single time I was just so frustrated. I used to play golf afterwards, and I'd sit in church and rehearse the golf holes in my head to get through the time. And I distinctly remember a period of time. It was tremendously tumultuous at work, and I was like, I'm not going to make it. This is not going to work. And I was thinking, I was like, man, I'm in church, and the thought crossed my mind. I was like, well, maybe there is a God and maybe I should pray. And I prayed. I was like, God, I don't even know what I'm asking. I don't even know if you're real. But if you are, I need help. And I'm not sure what to do, and I'm lost and I'm scared, and this is not going to go well, and I'm going to lose everything. And um, things started to really change. And at first I was
Mm.
like, oh, that was weird, whatever. And and then I got to church that next week, and I remember sitting there and thinking, and I prayed last week and things really changed this week and I felt different. Um, Maybe I'll try it again. And I had this experience where, I mean, I'm sensitive to people. The prosperity gospel is not the gospel. but I'm sensitive to disparaging anybody who
Mm.
is in church of any kind, because in some ways I kind of came to faith through the prosperity gospel. Now, obviously, what I learned about who the Lord is and what grace is and what it means to carry our cross daily is totally different than whatever the prosperity gospel preachers would preach. But man, I came to the faith because I was like, Lord, I need help. I need rescue. And I think that's ultimately like, we can't hear the good news unless we've heard the bad news first, which is we can't do it alone. We can't do it on on our own. And anyway, you kind of keep fast forwarding. I did not come to faith. I had these, these kind of way markers along the way. But 2011, I was 28 years old, and we actually were 28th on the Inc. 500 that year.
Mm.
And that was the year I made $1 million for the first time in my life, like paid taxes on $1 million. I remember thinking I was the richest person that ever lived. Told my wife that, we were really rich because we could fly anywhere on Southwest Airlines anytime we wanted to. That was my standard, right? And I mean, look, I think at the time we were maybe living on $40,000 or $50,000 a year. I mean, truly, it felt like an infinite amount of money.
Mm.
And I got invited to the White House to advise the White House on entrepreneurship policy. I was started invited into like all these national clubs and associations, and started getting just kind of part of the cool kids club for the first time. It felt like in my life, and I was completely lost. I remember everything tasted gray, buying more and more expensive food and drinks and travel. And, look, I told my wife I didn't love her. I distanced myself from my friends. I
Mm.
isolated. And I was really just miserable because I was like, man, I was the dog that caught the car. I thought I'd figured it all out. I was going to perform well. And when I performed well, then I was going to matter and belong. My heart was going to be able to be rested. And it wasn't. It's the lie, right? The lie that I think that is inside all of us, that we can believe that we are our performance, and that finally, if we can perform well enough, if we can get the thing that we really want, that we can win, and by winning, we'll be somebody. And then you find out you're the same person when you win, or if you don't win, you just keep climbing that same mountain. And I just remember being so disillusioned. I was like, this is it for the rest of my life. Like, I make more money and I eat more stuff and drink more stuff, and it was very nihilistic. I can look back and say I was depressed, probably clinically depressed at that point.
Mm.
And man, and right about that time, I started meeting these people who were so different, and I could regale you with story after story. Met this guy John Garrett in Texas, Sarah Haslag here in town, Dave Cover here in town, Justin Dyer in town, who's now at University of Texas. Like, these people were so different, and I was like, what is it about you? What do you, And they were like, oh, I follow Jesus, and I was like, you got to be kidding me, really?
Mm.
Like, that's where the hope is. I mean, they were so different than I was, and so different than the people that I had surrounded myself that were high performing entrepreneurial people. And slowly but surely, my faith went from, God's an impossibility to a plausibility to a probability to, and then eventually I mean, the Holy Spirit gave me eyes to see and ears to hear, and everything changed. Everything went technicolor. And of course, I'm still me, and I'm still messy, and I got all my problems, and
Yeah.
I'm still do, right. I'm still on this slow road to sanctification. I thought I'd be a lot further along than I am. But yeah, everything changed. I mean, my marriage started changing, all my relationships started changing, my heart started changing. I was able to get rest for the first time in my life. But I can remember the first time I heard the gospel, and I was pissed. I was so offended.
Mm.
I was
Mm.
like, wait a minute. You don't earn anything? Like, because I always thought
Free?
I'd never heard. I'm sure the gospel had been told to me growing up. I never heard the gospel. I could
Yeah.
never have ears to hear. I always thought the gospel was if you do enough good stuff, then God rewards you in this life and the next. That's what I thought. That's what I thought it was. And by the way, I think that's the definition of religion, right?
Mm.
And so I just didn't understand. And I remember when I was in a small group of guys and we're talking about something, and I said, "Oh yeah, I need to be working harder at this or that." And they go, "Hey, that's not the gospel, right?" And I was like, "What's the gospel then?" And they
Yeah.
told me, and I was like, "Wait, what? That's the gospel?" And after you're able to get, I mean, it. By the way, the gospel, I mean, it destroys your pride. It hits you. If you're somebody who's worked your whole life to earn and to gain and to be somebody, and the gospel tells you, no, 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 the foot of the cross is level. Thief on the cross theology. It's really, really hard to hear it. But it's the best news. It's the greatest news in the history of the world. It truly is the good news, and changed my life.
Amen. Amen. And I just so appreciate you have always been in every conversation I've heard you in or been in with you, so transparent and so vulnerable. And I just it is always it's fun to hear you share that. So thank you. All right, I'll shift a little bit more into the professional side. Just hit you with some quick questions here. Last 20 or 30 years, really last 20 years at a high rate, although it would be fun to hear what you say right now. Huge shift, right, from public equities into private equities. I mean, just monstrous. What would you say? What's behind that? What's going on there? Why has that trend been so on fire?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, well, one, the capital availability in the private markets is radically different than it was 20, 30 years ago. There just wasn't the capital to sustain high growth, larger companies. Now, those are companies typically they're going to be playing in a different field than what I would specialize in.
Right.
I would say my area of the world was highly unprofessional 15, 20 years ago. I remember when I first started looking, really when I got interested in the space was in, right around when I bought that business in 2010. I was like, wait a minute, are there people who do this? Like, how does this work? And, I'm Googling, small business acquisitions and all these things. And there was like nothing available on the internet. There was
Mm,
a little bit out of Harvard and a little bit out of Stanford on search funds. But there was really nothing online. There was no community online of people doing what I do. And it was really lonely. And actually that weirdly enough, that actually is what sparked my career. I started writing about what we were doing on the internet in 2011, 2012.
okay.
And that's when all of a sudden people started coming out of the woodwork and saying, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea somebody else was out there doing this. Oh, I'm interested in what you're doing. How are you doing that? I need capital. I'd like to work with you. All these different opportunities." And I mean, look, I'm some just rando in Columbia, Missouri. Like I didn't know anything. I just stumbled upon buying a small business and then tried to figure out, okay, how do you scale it from there? And I mean, really, I owe a lot of my career to just writing on the internet about what we're doing and how we're doing it. And then, my area of market has become much more professionalized as it's gone on, and
Right.
it's very extremely difficult. So I would say is, we're definitely in the quote unquote lower middle market. Lower middle market typically is, kind of companies between 10 and $100 million of enterprise value. So the valuation of the company kind of between 10 and 100. And so these aren't like, the barber shop or the bagel shop or something like that. Like these are legit businesses. They're just on the smaller end of size. And so yeah, so that's the area that we play in, and it's really been booming. That there's been this idea of the silver tsunami. So the amount of if you look at the retirement age and the ownership stats around who owns successful small businesses,
Yeah.
dominated by people who are older. And so the thinking has been, and really that I remember when I first started studying the demographics, I assumed that I actually had missed the wave. Because if you
Mm,
looked historically, really the silver tsunami should have crested about 10 years ago. Now, here's what's really interesting. Amongst the people who are successful financially, right? Because if you have a business that's making, it's between 10 and $100 million and it's closely held and, you're the seller, you're the owner, you have resources. Amongst those people, there's been a big shift in those people working a lot longer because they're a lot healthier. And so
yeah.
this tsunami has actually shifted. The wave is still here, but it's been shifting. And it's actually shifted kind of about between 10 and 15 years. And so we're just right on the cusp of that breaking over the next 5 years. And there's just going to be an influx of a tremendous number of these smaller companies that they don't have a succession plan. There's not a son or a daughter, family member who wants to step into their shoes. They're not able to finance it if they are. And so there's a lot of opportunity. The problem is transitioning these small companies is extremely difficult. The money's available to be able to transition them. The skill sets are not. And so that's what for
Mm.
me has been the journey, is just learning what are the skills we need and then building out a team. So we've got almost 30 people here in Columbia, Missouri that this is all we do, and we love it. I think I have the best job in the world.
So talk a little bit. You hinted at this in your intro. Permanent equity does stuff differently. Honestly, private equity has a reputation that we could talk about, and you mentioned that a little bit. But and maybe at a little slower pace than you would typically do it. Just do the major distinctives that make permanent equity differentiated from other private equity.
Yeah, so private equity is a broad category. I think we're the only profession that looks up to lawyers and reputation. So yes, I mean it's usually well deserved. So if we zoom fully out, private equity is people who buy equity in private companies. Like that's all, private equity actually means. Now, reputationally, what most people say or what people mean when they say private equity is a very specific model of private equity, which is called the leverage buyout model, LBO model. And this was pioneered by KKR, Henry Kravis in the 80s. And there's a great book called Barbarians at the Gate, if you ever want to read it, about the takeover of Nabisco and how they did that. And what the model is we're going to use as much debt as we possibly can. We're going to buy something that maybe has been it's a little soft. Maybe the people in charge haven't run it as lean as they possibly could. So we're going to come in. We're going to use as much debt as we can. We're going to strip a lot of costs out, which is just call it what it is. We're going to fire a bunch of people. We're going to lean the thing down. We're going to get really a lean, mean operating machine, and then we're going to figure out who to sell it to, or if it's a large company, take it public. And so what does that do? It introduces short-termism, right? There's no way to make good long-term decisions with short-term capital and a short time horizon. As Christians, look, our time horizon is infinite, right? We should have the longest time horizon of anybody on earth. We believe that what we do matters into eternity. Like we do not believe that the only things that survive are I've heard this before, the souls of men and the word of God, right? Everything else burns. We do not believe that. What we believe is that what our actions matter into eternity, right? There's an amazing book called Leaf by Niggle. It's like a short story by Tolkien that talks about this. I highly advise people pick it up. But I think this is really important. This is where theology and the practicality meet in a really important way. And so when I think about what do I want in private equity, it's like, look, you have a highly successful business that is serving their community, that's got a great employee base, that's got these great rhythms. Right now, is there room for improvement? Of course there is, and we want to be excellent because God calls us to be excellent, right? He's a God of excellence. But it doesn't mean that we should be treating people as means to an end, as cogs in a wheel, as expendable items, right, to get what we want. And so what we try to do is in our model, instead of using debt, so we're not using debt, because what does debt do? Debt borrows from the future, right? Debt adds a lot of risk to the future. If things go down a little bit, can put a good business in bad shape. So we're not using debt. We're not trying to pull from the future and borrow from the future. And we have functionally permanent capital. I mean, nothing is actually permanent in this life, right? I mean, we're all going to die. Things come to an end. We have a 30-year initial term on our capital and ability to renew beyond that. So functionally, it's permanent capital. Hence the name, permanent equity of the business. But we really just keep it simple. We're trying to find people who love what they do, have served their customers, have a great employees, great leadership. We're trying to come in and partner with them for a very long time, not use debt. And what we tell them is, look, if we're getting involved with you, if we did our job right, you're doing well. We don't do turnarounds, right? We're not trying to come in and tell somebody that they, what they did wrong. We're trying to help them get better. And so we're trying to partner with people over a long period of time to win together and win in a way that helps a lot more stakeholders than just the buyer and the seller. We want communities to flourish. We have an aspiration that as a result of working with us, and by the way, we have to say sorry all the time, and we're imperfect. This is aspirational, but we're trying. Is we want the whole person to flourish underneath this. We want their marriage to get better. We want their relationships to get better, their friendships to get better. All of that, we were hoping through work you can help encourage human flourishing.
Great. One other thing I know is unique, if you would just give it a second. I mean, how you guys get paid and make money as a PE is very different and stands out. Can you describe that real quick?
Yeah. So how traditional private equity makes money is they're paid a fee on assets under management. So they get typically 2% of whatever they manage. So if you manage $100 million, you get $2 million a year fee income. If you manage $1 billion, you get $20 million a year. And then you get, after you paid back your investors their capital, then you get 20% of the upside. So it's called 2 and 20. We are the exact opposite in many ways. So we take no fees of any kind, no reimbursements of any kind. There's literally zero cash that comes from the LPs or the portfolio companies to us. We have a capital that's ours that we stockpile. We use no debt at the permanent equity level. And we typically have about 3 years of operating cash on hand. So we don't have to get paid for up to 3 years, nothing. And we're just totally fine. What we do is, as we are able to return cash back to investors, we take a percentage of that above a hurdle. And so it's just as perfectly aligned as you possibly can be with investors. There's no way for us to make money if our investors don't make more. There's no situation where our incentives are different than our investors' incentives. And so we love it because we think that it keeps things very crisp and clean and clear. And we're able to really just partner with our investors for a very long period of time, having aligned incentives.
It's great. I will say this for folks that don't know, Brent is a great writer, and there's tons of stuff you could find out there on the web. There's a great book if you're interested, even in the details. Messy Marketplace is a great kind of how-to on buying businesses and doing what he does. What year I mean, that's old now. How long ago did that come out?
It was 2018. Yeah, we recently did
Okay.
a refresh of it though. I think we updated it last year. So
Okay. Okay. I got two final questions for you. One of the ways I know that you're honoring Christ, in your vocation is you talk about that eternal perspective. What else sticks out to you in ways that you try to be really intentional about honoring the Lord inside of your vocation?
I mean, I would say one of the biggest things that and actually David, you and I have talked about this and texted about this is really trying to at a heart level understand grace and love, and that, like, yes, I'm blessed to be a blessing, but I'm also just blessed. Like, I'm not just merely a conduit for God. Like God cares about
Mm,
me. And I think that makes a huge difference in how we go about our daily work. Are we working from a place of love or for love? Because I think how it shows up in the workplace is massively different. If I'm working for love, then I'm basically asking everyone around me to validate what I'm doing. I'm on edge. If anybody says an idea I have is not a good one, then it's an indictment on who I am, as it goes against my identity. And that's one of the things I'm really trying to sit in more, is just be with God and be filled with love from Him, and then just let that love spill out over everyone else around me. Hopefully, I'm so overflowing with love that it splashes out. But you can't give away what you don't have, what you haven't been given. And I think this has been a big struggle in my life. I mean, even over the last 5 years, I mean, I think that my base heart level belief, right? Even my head knows different, but my heart, it's really hard for get my heart to be in a place that believes that I'm loved because I'm loved, that I'm not loved because
mm,
of something I've done or something I've achieved, or that I'm impressive, or that people think that I'm done some spectacular thing. Like
mm.
I have this heart level ache to be shiny and sparkly. And it comes from this deep insecurity that, could God just actually love me for me? Could I be
Yeah.
blessed not just to be a blessing, right? Not just as a conduit. I'm not just an ambassador, because look, ambassadors can get recalled. Ambassadors have a job to do. You got to perform as an ambassador. Um, as a son, like
Mm,
I don't have to perform. I was shown the love of God by my grandmother growing up, and man, she would do anything for me. She didn't care if I performed. She didn't care if I behaved or not even. I mean, she never tried to correct me and never judged me. She just loved me. Why did she love me? Because she loved me, because I was hers. I'm really
yep.
trying to have that absorbed, and trying to figure out how can I take that same mindset and go into the deal room, go into a tough negotiation, go into a difficult situation with maybe an employee, and say, okay, look, I'm coming in, I'm fully loved. There's nothing I have to do to perform here. How does that change how I love that person? What I tell that person? I don't know. That's where I
So
think I'm in struggle right now.
it reminds me a little bit. My dad has a few different phrases that I heard him say a million times, but one of the ones was "He loves you because he loves you because he loves you." Like
Mhm.
no other reason. And actually, my sister's got a tattoo
Oh, awesome.
in his handwriting of that exact phrase, but it just resonates exactly what you're
Mm.
saying. All right, we're gonna wind down here. Practically, I don't know how often you guys are hiring people out of school, out of college, but what qualities do you and the permanent equity team look for in a college grad? Like when you're going out and hiring them, what do you want to see in the interview?
Yeah. I mean, the number one thing is just humility.
Mm,
I got to tell you, it is so hard. And believe me, I'm saying this. I was not a humble recent grad of college, or I struggle with humility all the time, right? I feel like my heart posture is default pride. But man, I tell you what, I have seen, honestly, I've really never seen any career go sideways other than pride. And
Mm,
if you think about what is humility, it's an ability to see reality for what it really is. And true humility is to see ourselves and see those around us as God sees them. So both in our brokenness and our beauty. And the number one thing I see that is it's just so hard is when you're young and you got to prove yourself, you feel insecure, you don't know where to go, you don't know what to do. The quickest thing to do is, well, I deserve this, I deserve that. I'm gonna go and do these things, and it's this high level prideful confidence. I mean, and that line is there. I mean, confidence is not bad, but man, pride is just so hard to deal with because you can't teach pride. And so I would say the number one thing is humility. If you could just
mm,
go and say, hey, I, I have some skills, I have some God-given abilities, I have a lot to learn. I want to be incredibly teachable. I mean, one of the aspirations I have for my life is that I'm the easiest person in the world to get feedback to. I'm not that right
mm,
now, but I'm trying. I really, really want to be as easy as I possibly can to give feedback to. And I would just say to any new grad or really just anybody in general, I mean, this doesn't just apply to grads. It's like the number one way you're going to get your career into trouble or your marriage into trouble or your friendships into trouble is by being prideful, by not listening to what other people have in the feedback. And look, we're very friction sensitive as people. If we sense any friction at all, we just won't give feedback. And so it's that same way in the workplace. There are people who I've worked with who I'm like
yeah.
dying to just be like, oh gosh, can I please just tell you if you just tweak this and tweak that, it'd be amazing. They just don't have ears to hear and they haven't opened the door for me to say it. And so I would just say
Yeah.
humility above all else.
That's great. Well, Brent, we are so excited for your time on campus in residence here in a month or so, and really appreciate you giving us this interview time today, and look forward to hanging out and learning more. So, Jenny, I'll turn it back over to you.
Great. And I just want to echo David and Brent. Thank you so much for joining us today. What an amazing story. It's going to be an amazing time together when you are here with us, Brent, April 7th through 9th here at Covenant College as our executive in residence. Thank you so much for today's conversation, and thank you for all the insights. And we're going to look for more in just about 30 days. So thanks for a great afternoon, and we wish everyone a wonderful day ahead. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jenny.
Bye.
Thanks, Jenny.